Hello, me lovelies. Well, as said, got Humble Dryer with us here, John Wason. Is it Watson or Wason?
Wason and I, it's just Mason, upside down Mason.
I never thought so like that. Got Rob. Good evening, Rob, and John Little. Good evening. So anyway, to start off, I just said something before we went live, didn't I, about your top?
Yeah, what's the skirt with the black?
See how I've got red on?
Yeah,
Well,
I've got a wee bit of red on.
Well, not good enough. You've got black on. For the next few days, you have to wear red because tomorrow is the Chinese New Year, which is built on the lunar cycle, not the solar cycle. So to wear black is incredibly unlucky. So start wearing red.
So Chinese New Year tomorrow, I should know that as well.
Yeah, Chinese New Year tomorrow. And just a little gift for you. See, you're lucky that I've asked you on now. You get all the little gifts now. Here we go. I want you to make a wish, right?
Okay.
Or ask the powers that be without having to pay them back, because you have to be careful. You don't want to pay them back. They're doing it out of the goodness and love for humanity. You ask them for something. It can't be anything negative. So you can't say, I want Dega Hegi to drop dead. You can't say it like that, right? It's got to be something good. Okay. So you get something that you really wish to happen next year and you want to happen. Get that in your head now. And when you're ready, raise your right hand and I'll do the rest of the little ceremony.
Yeah.
Here we are. So you keep on thinking.
Okay, I'll keep on thinking.
Now there's a red candle for you.
Okay.
And it's been purified with essential oils as well, myrrh and other essential oils. And here's little kitty. So keep that thought in your head.
Okay. We've got one of them.
There's little kitty saying your wish will come true. Your wish will come true. There we go. So that's it, and that stays light in there.
Okay.
So that is your wish for the new year. So
we've got one of the wee kitties there.
Yeah, this thing drives mad though. Makes a loud clicking noise. So I'm not too fond of that one. But right, let's see what we've got in the chat.
Yeah, you got it there. Of course you've got it. Yeah, Suzanne's just reminding me so of to wear red. Red clashes with my hair on.
It doesn't matter. You've got to wear red.
You've got to wear red next year.
I've got what?
I tell you what, I'll get my red underwear.
Well, yeah, that can do it.
Red underwear.
Yeah,
that's what you need.
Oh, yeah. Exactly the same one as mine, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same one.
It's solar panel. It's got a wee solar panel. Yeah.
I've got exactly the same one to show you. Okay. Anyway, so just say hello to a couple of them. We'll get on to this. Maud, hello, love. I haven't seen you for ages, Maud. Hope you're keeping well down. All blessings for the new year to you. Everyone in the chat, Rudy and the dogs, hello.
Rudy's been on our panel a couple of times. Rob Olgoff's really, really nice guy. And you maybe get Rob Olgoff on some night, actually, because when he's ready to speak, you'll like Rob and his lovely wife, Sharon. They've sent us a couple of gifts. Like driftwood and stuff like that. He's painted up.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah. The like house sign thing.
Yeah,
I saw that. Yeah, it's the year of the rabbit, Rudy. So I'm the year of the dragon. Well, do you know when I'm special, but I shouldn't say that, should I? Because people would think I'm just saying that I'm special in the head. I'm unique in more than one way. I am not only a dragon, a mythical beast. I'm also a centaur. Isn't that absolutely flabbergasted, Jen?
Yeah.
I'm also a centaur. Right.
We'll learn something new about Anne every day.
I know, boring as crap it is, like, but anyway. So anyway, what we're going to talk about today, we're going to get away from all the drama.
No drama today.
No drama. It's sticking to how you, because what I got a sense is that you have had an intense life. That's what I get. When it's intense, I don't mean traumatic. I mean, it's been a full on in the fast lane life for most of it, because I can tell by your personality. So let's start. You start where you want to start, as far back and where you want to start on who Humble Dryer is.
Well, Humble Dryer, if I was to put myself, if I was to write something about myself, I don't know where I'd sit, and I'm very low opinionated of my actual self. I've never really thought about it. I was brought up, my mum and dad split up when I was 2 years old, and my dad, it was quite an unusual thing there, but there was no hidden connections or anything there. My grandpa, basically, it was probably a money thing. It'd be fair to say a money thing. My dad moved back in with my grandparents. My mum and dad split up, and my dad moved back in with my grandparents. My dad was an apprentice mechanic. He was only young. My mum had me very young as well. So I've got a close relationship with my mum. But my mum would, I mean, she might even be watching this. She'd be fair to say that my gran was my mother. Yeah, my grandpa. My dad was more like a brother. My mum was more like a sister. I was brought up, my grandpa was a miner. He was a deputy in the mine rescue brigade. And then he had a bad accident. He got buried down the mine.
Yeah.
And then he went on, he worked right up past retirement age, actually. He was a superintendent for Strathclyde Regional Council before when he retired. He worked all his days.
Now you have to just jump in. You have to explain something, because being English and being Welsh and being Irish, when the Scottish say superintendent, the superintendent in England, the rest of Britain, is something completely different. So just quickly explain what a superintendent is in Scotland. Well,
a superintendent he was like a gaffer of certain boys. So like if you had crews that go out and do jobs for the council, he worked himself up to that stage. He didn't just get handed it. He worked himself up to superintendent. He was on. He got his hands dirty for a number of years before he was made up to superintendent. He worked his way up the ranks, basically, with Strathclyde Regional Council, not the police, with the council. Strathclyde Regional Council used to be just one, and then there was branches off it, like east, and he was basically southwest, kind of carry on through it all. Again, it was great. He had good pensions when he retired. He had a good pit pension, a mine pension, and then he had his Strathclyde Regional Council pension as well. So it was all right. We never did anything fancy. He wasn't a man for having big fancy things. He liked a nice car. That was it. He was more of a saver. He saved. Which I get spoiled. I'll be honest. I probably one of my uncles, when I moved in with my grandparents, with my dad, one of my uncles was still young. You know, he was getting into high school when I was born. I maybe just, so I probably stole quite a bit of his lifestyle, because I was a grandson. I was like the new kid in the house, and where my grandpa would have probably have let me off with things, he never let his own off it. He always find that the grandparents let the softer, and I think that's basically what's happened. But we were brought up. My gran never worked. She was a housewife, but again, she was running after my grandpa, and 4 years. There was 5 boys in the house with no girls, I had sisters off my mum and my dad's side. Sadly, one died, but my gran never had any girls. So anybody that married into my uncles or that was treated like the daughter of the family type thing.
So what is your what would you say was your earliest memory? Because we all have an earliest memory that we can go back to. Mine goes back to when.
Well, strange you say that. I can actually remember. Like people have memories. I've been children and that. So when my mum and dad split up, they were 2. I was 2, and I can remember my gran coming down for me one day with the Alsatian dog, the first Alsatian dog we had, to take me up. I remember walking up from the house because it was just round the corner from my grandparents' house, and I can remember that. So that must have been my earliest memory at 2-year-old to be able to remember that, because I remember that house, and my mum and dad moved out it when I was 2. I can remember that one moment.
Yeah, it's what mine is. I can remember crawling. That's how young I was. I was crawling and I was playing with a ball, a plastic. Still see it now, see-through plastic ball. And there was this robot you had in the it would have been the 60s then, late 60s. And they used to have these wonderful robots. They looked like robots with flashing bellies. And do you get this? I always remember my childhood through smells. When I get a smell, it shoots me right back to my childhood.
I always remember going into one of my grand sisters. She was very, very house proud. House proud. Like her brass window catches and everything. And you always could smell Brasso. She loved getting her Brasso out and sitting there polishing her brass ornaments. And I can always remember that. Then another grand, she loved her coffee. And then there's like my grand's Penny. You could always smell the cooking off it. You know, when you walked in, you could smell flour.
Yeah, it always smells with me.
I remember when I first started kind of dabbling in cannabis. I remember coming in. I was only 14 or something. I remember coming in the front door and my grand going, You've been at Herbs. You've been at Herbs. She could smell the smoke for the cannabis off us.
Because you're 10 years younger than me, right? So
47, yeah.
Yeah. So that would have been 7 when you were how old? 14. So that would have been the 80s, wouldn't it? Like
89, 89, I think.
89, yeah, 89. So were drugs easily available in that area that you lived in?
No, when I was at primary school, and we had one guy, and I can't remember his real name, but we called him Beaches, Beeches, Beaches, and Beaches, which I later found out was one of the kind of more intelligent guys who had went from. It was a small mining village. Basically, we came from a population of in around 2000. Beaches was in my first uncle's kind of era, and it turns out he was more intelligent than most kids at school. He was designing rockets and everything when he was at that, and he went on to do Glasgow University, and he was the first person we ever had heard of taking heroin in the village ever. I remember we always used to lean over the school railings and make fun of him because and then he used to go up the castle and we used to kind of go. The sad thing about Beaches was he actually went in with his last pound one day and bought a pint 300 yards along from the primary school and they broke the pint glass and shoved it into jugular, and he fell into the river. My grandpa had came along and seen a crowd performing because he was sitting on the river. The river was in spate at the time, and my grandpa he'd fell over the bridge into the water. My grandpa I remember coming out of school gates and looking along and seeing him getting his climbing gear on that he had in the back of his van, and because the spate had took him in and it was keeping him there, and he was going to try and go over the bridge to try and get a grip of him, but anyway, a fisherman down the river, maybe about half a mile down the river, managed to get him out with the gaff. But he was dead. They reckon he was dead before he hit the water. He'd shoved into his jugular.
Yeah. Oh, so God,
yeah. He was the first. He'd actually cut his wrist on one side of the bridge and walked across to the other side, sat in the bridge, and he just put the glass into his jugular. And he was the only person that we'd ever heard of in the village taking heroin, but which I'll get to in a wee bit. We never got drugs. It was quite an old thing to get caught smoking was bad enough. My grandpa caught me smoking one night and just he said, "Are you smoking?" I went, "No," and he'd obviously seen me hiding the cigarette, and it just clenched my hand. So the cigarette was burning my hand, and I just grinned and bare it as if to say, "I'm not smoking." Yeah. I'd put the fag out there,
Yeah, if I'd been, I mean, that's a bit extreme, that. But if I'd been caught smoking, which I didn't smoke when I was at school or anything like that, but make it easy. That's what I know would have happened. They would have made me eat it. So I never bothered taking the show, even though both my parents smoked.
Well, I smoked in front of my gran from 14, 15. My gran was a smoker, but I never smoked in front of my grandpa until I was just before I turned 19. It was New Year's Eve, and in the house, and my uncle flung me a cigarette, and I said, I don't smoke. And he said, Jenky's stupid. He knows you've been smoking for years, and that was the first I'd ever smoked in front of him when I had a drink in me, a bit of Dutch courage.
And that was it. Then the devil, once you start, don't you? It's a hell of a thing to give up. Well, it can be. Some people give up easily for some reason.
I love a cigarette, and I do love it.
I used to really enjoy smoking, and when they used to turn around, and I haven't smoked for a few years now, but when people actually used to say, "Oh, you make excuse, you don't really like smoking," you say, "No, I do. I actually love it. I adore it." And I've always said to my neighbours and my friends, if you see me walking down the street someday with 2 carrier bags full of cigarettes, I said, you know that I've got so many months to live, because I said I'm going to go out enjoying myself and smoking again. So I'm not one of these that give up and say, "Oh, that's." Do you know? It doesn't bother me if someone lights up right in front of me. Thank God it doesn't, because I don't get any cravings for it. But I hate these born again, giving up smoking and all that business, and the disgusting habits. It's like, oh, so the best way to keep someone smoking is to act like there's some kind of pariah that have to be avoided, because it's like, oh, I need a cigarette because no one likes me. That's what happens, isn't it?
There's a book out which I can't remember right now, but if Donna's listening, she might. We bought it, and it was a guy who made a book, and he said, if you can take the cravings of you running about, Alan Carr, he wrote a book, and he said, if you can take the cravings away, and if you can reverse that craving of chasing that cigarette and put that into, because and then you have that cigarette and you're like, again, if you can keep that and you think that's if you can transfer that in your brain from the craving and put that into your up.
Yeah.
He said, and we actually done that, and to be honest, I stopped for a couple of days, but it came across like it was too easy, and I started again.
Oh, all that you do well, what I did, and it took me a few attempts, believe me, to give up, was I went through a really, really bad patch, and I had to agree, or they would section me to go into a mental health unit for 3 weeks. And so I thought, I better agree to this, because if they section me, it could be months, So I went in there, and thank God it was only 3 weeks. But we could smoke all hours of the night. If you wanted to go out for a smoke, you could go out on the stairs for a smoke. Great. And one of the staff was telling me, said, after this, they said, there's no more smoking. They said they won't allow any smoking at all. And I thought, can you imagine being in a place like this, stressed out, you're having a nervous breakdown, and you're told you can't have cigarettes? And you know what they say, once you've been in a place like that, or I said to myself, once I've been in a place like that, and I didn't expect to ever go into a place like that, I thought, what's going to happen is the chances are in the future it could happen again.
Yes.
And I thought, if I go in there and I can't have a cigarette, if I'm still smoking, that's it. I'll just go absolutely ballistic. So what I did was I thought, right, I've got to give up. And I got myself hooked. You know the nicotine tabs that you suck?
Yeah.
Not
They make me hiccup all the time. I can't take them.
Some people do. Well, I'm allergic to the patches. I couldn't take that. I'm severely allergic to them, and ended up in the hospital with them. So I have to take them. So I got myself hooked onto them. And big mistake, John, I thought, oh, well, all that I've got to do now is give up them. I mean, you're talking about I was on them for 2 years and not smoking.
All right.
Christ, when I tried to give them up, John,
it
was as bad as giving up the smoking. But at least now I know that I don't crave a cigarette. If I'm going to crave it, it's going to be one of those little tabs, which is better to crave
Yeah, it's
than a
better.
cigarette. But
It's
anyway,
not that, it's the price of them as well now, I think.
oh, it's horrific.
13 quid a packet or something the last time we bought them.
Oh, it is absolutely horrific. But you'll know the time will be ready when you know you're going to give up. But anyway, get enough about me, as wonderfully interesting as I am of people. But anyway, let's get back to your life now. What were you like as a child growing up? Let's say the age of 12, when we all start becoming like an individual, or we're finding that we are an individual. What were you like then, from then to your teenage?
Probably one of the fairest people to ask was probably one of the teachers. I was put into 2 academies. The first academy I lasted 6 weeks, and a girl who had come up through primary school with us, she was like a sister. She was brought up by her grandparents across the road. Some boy hit her at school, and I ended up fighting with the boy at the bus stop. And then I come in the next day with my hand broken, and started fighting again with his bigger cousin. So I never really lasted long at the first academy. And I remember I wasn't very good at taking. The only person who could get away with shouting at me or something was my grandpa. Anybody else, I just put up with the defence. I wasn't. If somebody sort of spoke to me, I would, as you know, I would have it. But I wasn't good at taking. I was not good at taking things like if somebody shouted something at me, I'd just turn off from them and speak to the hand. So when I get put to the second academy, now this was the academy, and the same rector, headmaster, is what my dad, well, not so much my dad, but my other uncle and that had. So they accepted me into the other academy with a history of a bit of violence in the playground, which was good. And I actually, right through that school, but I was suspended in around 36 times, and I was expelled and maybe 3-4 times, if I remember right. But they held on to me, right? They never. I was that offer going into a children's home many occasions. But the rector, Mr. Stuart Jardine, his name was, and Mr. Moyers, the guy below the rector, because I didn't like bullying in the playground or stuff like that. And every time I was getting suspended or something, it was due to fighting somebody or something. I had a very violent but I've still got people that I speak to from school. You know that I was quite popular at school, but I was very short tempered.
You know, when you say you were nearly put into a home,
Yeah.
So it must have been pretty serious what you were doing. Were you off the rails,
my file. I remember seeing it in 4th year. I was quite embarrassed about it, and it's one of the kind of memories that sticks in my mind. My gran and grandpa used to come in, and they used to get called to these meetings, and then it ended up there was a social worker involved, and they used to come into these school meetings, and I remember them pulling out a file, and it was kind of like that there. They said this is a normal pupils, you know, like in 4th year, and then they basically pulled out something like that, and that was mine. And I remember them sitting it down the desk, and it was like a phone book. I was embarrassed about it because I realised then I was like in 4th year, and the amount of times that I'd pull my grandparents up to these meetings and my mum and you know these meetings, and I think. But what happened was, teachers like Mr. Boyd, my English teacher, and that realised coming to 4th year, like shouting at me is no got anywhere. So what they all done was like, is anybody tried speaking to them? So they all managed to get round me, which was a bit kind of bummer, because then I'd nobody. Every single teacher must have had a staff room meeting about this, where they decided, well, listen, is anybody actually sort of spoke to him? I had a maths teacher called Mr. Cannon. His father worked under my grandpa down in mine, and Mr. Cannon went on to teach my son. And I remember getting into a meeting about my son getting into a fight in the stage.
So what was it that they found out was triggering you or sparred you off?
nothing. They just sort of spoke to me instead of shouting at us, which I think was quite a common thing back then. It was common. Bearing in mind, the school bell just got done away with when I was in primary 3 or 4. We were still getting,
yeah, I remember that, getting hit, with the big cane. But God bless. You see, this is the thing with. See, I had a completely different experience of school because I was literally in a ballet school, and they, if you didn't like shouting, John, my God, they used to really bawl at you, and you'd be knackered, you'd be in pain, but they'd be yelling at you all the time. But that was the standard that I was expecting. You couldn't answer them back. But in a normal school or where someone's there and they don't particularly want to be there, it's difficult. And I could never see, and they did back then. I mean, I say, I'm 10 years before you when I was in school in the 70s and all this. And the standard then was to shout, and they had the strap and the cane. But people just sort of, for some reason, got on with it. I don't know why, but it never stopped the bullying from what I heard. People still got bullied even when they got strapped or caned or not. So it's better to talk and find out. And this is what I've always said, and I found this in community theatre job. I was always like, oh God, why do they always let these kids who won't go to school, they won't behave themselves? Why did they always try to get them into the theatre? Because the theatre, it's so demanding, John, it's your life. You've got to put that first. You can't have it getting in the way, whether you've got children, whether you've got ill family members. That job's got to come first. But I saw these kids who were really on the wrong side of the tracks, and they were the most talented. Given the opportunity, what they produced on that stage blew my mind. And I thought, it's true what they say. If you get a child and give them something that they want to do, they'll work hard at it. And you know, out of 14 of those kids, 19 there were, 14 went on to go and study for their qualifications to get into university. Isn't that amazing? So it works. They just need to talk to kids, not scream down at them all the time.
I think it's finding a fine line, Anne, because the kids, you need to gain a kid's respect. I found every teacher before I left school, every single teacher, some of them I'd hated, I'd respect for them. You know, and some of the things that we put, with an English teacher called Mrs. Cree, she had a glass eye. And some of the things I look back even today, I feel guilty for it. Some of the things that we called her, you know, and she was probably one of the most hardest teachers, but played by the rules of teaching that probably a lot of people, because she got a lot of stick over her glass eye. And, you know, again, I was never ever moved out of class. We had a French teacher who looked like a mouse, he looked like a rat. But again,
everyone has a teacher that they either called ratty or mousy.
But going back just briefly to primary school with a teacher called Mrs. Fleming. She came in just at the end of primary 6. First time she ever met us, I was standing outside the classroom with my foot against the wall, waiting to get into the headmaster's office for a ticking off. And then our music teacher came into school, and within a couple of years, within a year, I'd picked up a musical instrument, i.e. the bagpipes, and I found myself, I got addicted to practicing the bagpipes. And I found myself like in competitions, like the kind of first competitions, I got a first, a third. I was in competitions with 130 odd, 140 odd people at Linwood Academy. I was walking away with thirds within a year of picking them up. But then when I went to high school, I was more into the smokers' corner, the naughty corner of school. Every school's got a smokers' corner, and I found myself in that corner, no being part of any gangs or that, but being certainly in amongst everything that was happening. You know, like if I was in, but I remember breaking the fire alarm at school, and they got some 1,500 people lined up in the playground, and I remember standing there amazed saying, I done that. You know, I get everybody to stand in that in rows there.
You felt powerful. Yeah,
Right, good as a kind of power trip thing. Yeah.
But you know when you started moving on, this thing that you played the bagpipes,
Yeah.
but your life went in another way from music, didn't it? You went into fishing and all this, which we'll get to. But do you think if you would have had the opportunity thinking back then to do anything you wanted to do or to train really hard? And this is what I'm saying. When I was just saying about the theatre, these kids, once they had something to aim for that they loved, they worked and sweated and put their backs into it. Like you're saying about playing the bagpipes, it was something that you enjoyed, and so you did put the work into it. So it's not that children are lazy, it's just that they're not inspired, or what they're being told to doesn't inspire them. What would you like to, at that time, if you could have had a choice of going into any industry you could, which at that time would you have gone into? And I mean anything, sports,
If I had to have followed a dream, it would have been touring car racing, believe it or not. Because I was one of these boys who you either went out on a Friday night to the discos or you bought a motorbike. I was one of the boys that bought a motorbike. The problem I had was my grandpa hated motorbikes, and he vouched that as long as he was alive, I would never have a motorbike at the door. He hated them. I don't know whatever. I never ever asked him why he hated them so badly. So what I did was I saved up and I bought motorbikes, but I had them at all my friends' houses. And I was always kind of chasing that police car. The police car was always somewhere in the village looking for us on our motorbikes. It was a common thing. And God rest him. John Gillis, I just met his daughter the other day there, who went on to be a minister and christen my kids. I just get told he passed away there at Christmas. I didn't even know. But he never once charged us. But he did take our motorbikes off us and put them in the lockup.
Wait a minute. John, just wait a minute. Mrs. O, who's doxing who? Mrs. O's just come on, and I can trust Mrs. O. She's not so Mrs. O, she's saying someone's doxing. I can't see.
Oh, there's your fancy man. Your fancy man's in the chat.
Oh, stop it, you. Stop
Danny.
Who's... So Mrs. O, just put in quickly, who? I didn't know.
I don't know why they're doxing me, and I've made videos at the front of my house.
No, I can't see. I know I've just put someone in timeout that was being stupid.
All right, sorry. See, I only have a wee peek at the chat because it flings you off if you're doing something.
Yeah, it's just if it's doxing, I can't find it. But yeah, and as for exposure's on. Can I be unblocked TV on my main account now?
Exposure TV I think you and Exposure would make a good live someday, and I think you should question them.
I mean, this because this is about you. Let's get off that.
All right, okay.
This is all about you, John, not about me or anyone else. So anyway, here we are now. So you would have gone into that. So you started leaving school. Did you get your qualifications? Did you go into university?
I left school with absolutely no qualifications whatsoever. The only prelim I passed was my English prelim. I probably had the worst record for attendance at school, probably out my year. By the time I was 16, my uncle had a car paint shop, so I'd always plattered about with cars all my life. So in the summer holidays and time off or whatever, I'd be in my uncle's garage working. He employed about 6 or 7 people working in the garage at one point, and he had it for 40 years before he died. And so I had a trade as such, but I never did any paperwork with my trade. But I was a worker. As soon as I got into I was 17 on the Monday, and I had my driving license. I'd passed my test. My grandpa bought me a week's course thing. I went and passed my test, and I started working with cable television. I started working with United Artists was the name. It was quite a big thing. You used to see
the film.
Yeah, United Artists. So they owned a big company up in Bothwell and Uddingston, and I started working for cable television. and I was meant to start as a trainee on, which I was on like, it was maybe kind of £270 or something take home after tax. And because I picked up in the job that quickly, I actually, my first wage was just shy of 500 quid. And this is all right. This is all right for somebody. 500 quid was a lot of money back there for somebody working, you know, just a year past school, no qualifications. I'd done a short stunt on the fishing boats then. You know, so I'd went after the big money, but I landed it with the United Artists. Then I went on to work with Sky Television, and I started off as a grade 4 satellite engineer, which is basic. That means you can go and fling a satellite dish up. We're going back to the analogue system. It wasn't a digital system. And then by the time I was finished there, I'd worked myself down to a grade 2 satellite engineer. I had to go to courses in York and living, you know, stay away for a few weeks, not here and there doing courses. And that basically meant that a grade 2 satellite engineer, in layman's terms, this means that you could come in and do a repair to your satellite receiver, whatever, in the house, rather than taking it away, replacing it and everything. It costs, you know, it saved Sky TV a fortune at the time. Rob Olgoff I'll know what I'm talking about here. He used to work with Sky. He would sell them, but the problem I had, I done the run. They called it the Magic Circle because it started off in Glasgow every morning, so I had to travel an hour, breaking the speed limit to get to Glasgow, go to Hillington Industrial Estate, get all my stuff, and then I would average on 250 to 300 mile a day, and in that you'd have to do 5 installations and 3 service points. You had to do 13 points in a day to make bonus, and I was always chasing the bonus, which was an extra £100 a week, a bonus, you know, after tax. So it was good. I had up until my first son was born, my boy was born, I probably had more than my dad. To be fair to say, I probably had more than my dad, and he'd worked all his life. At the age of 19, I'd everything that I'd everything that I'd ever wanted. You know, like nice house, nice car, son. You know, I'd all the toys.
How old did you say then, Humble?
By the time I was 19-year-old.
19? God, that's young, isn't it? God, and so you had your own house at 19?
I had my own house. I had my own house. My first house was a farmhouse. I had when I was I was maybe 18 and a half. I had my first farmhouse, and the Brucey bonus of the farmhouse was it was a farmer that I used to got. I'd been brought up with the farmer. He just lived up the hill, and I used to go up in the summertime and do carting the silage for him and all the rest of it. So when the farm cottage come up, the deal was you whitewashed the farm once a year. You whitewashed it, and that was your rent. So but that didn't fall into me. What I did was went up and done the silage for him in my summer holidays. I'd take my holidays from work and go and bring the silage in for him. Never took a penny for it, and that was my rent for the year. So it was a good start. And then I got a brand new build. I was in the farm bungalow for just over a year more, and then we got a brand new house in the village that had just been built, and it was good because it was just in time for my son being born.
So that young, having that much responsibility on your head, because that's a hell of a lot of responsibility. A family, a house, doing that. How did you cope? Because 19, that seems very young to have all that responsibility on your shoulders. How did you cope with it?
Didn't really. Well, I thought I was coping on, but to be honest, the relationship broke down because when I understanding now, when a female, they have a kid, they go through maybe, I'm not so much saying postnatal depression or that, but there's things there on a woman having kids that I didn't understand. I didn't understand that. So rather than spending time with the missus and the kid, I was away working, and I was working 7 days a week, chasing that bonus all again, doing some serious mileage, and spending very little time at home, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was looking back and again, I was selfish. I was coming up to Christmas as well, and I'd worked 13 weeks in a row with not a day off. I was burning the candle at both ends. And then when I was maybe getting finished early, some Fridays or that, I was coming home, jumping in the car and going to the pub with the boys. You know, it was like, so at the time, I should have probably have concentrated on, but again, that's just the way I am. Some things you can't change. And
Well, the thing is, it's always great to look back in hindsight, isn't it? And we all do
hindsight's a
things.
great thing, yeah.
Oh, it's great, isn't it? If you could predict what you were going to, if you could look to the future, my God, the things you wouldn't be doing. But so you had this, as I said, in the fast lane. You were going full throttle.
Yeah, I was having
When
full
did-
throttle. I was going brilliant at it, and as I say, I had everything. I had the new house, I had everything. I had the nice sports cars, I had the motorbikes. You know, I was buying my son things that I should have been buying him when he was 10-year-old. I was buying them before he was 2-year-old. It was just crazy. I was chasing the biggest television that money could set eyes on. It was all the material things, all the gadgets. I wanted the latest gadgets.
That's normal for someone. You would have been 21, 22, so that's normal to want that. You were just, you got money, and of course you like a child in a sweet shop, so that's totally normal. Now, I'm conscious
I stopped smoking cannabis, and I was I was fed up coming up the street at night time, being 16-year-old, and going to my bed and just feeling shit, you know. So I decided one night I was trying to get the paint from underneath my fingernails in a bath. I remember it as clear as day. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going down the street tonight and I'm not going to chip in and buy that bit of cannabis, because we were all putting in a £5 or a £10 or whatever and buying that. And I just said, you know what? So I went down that night and I put my money in, because I was doing the calculations, walking down the street, and I'm thinking, well, my money's due to get in the night. So I put my money into it. And then they had it, and I never smoked it. So I realised then, watching everybody getting stoned, I went home and I slept without thinking about things, without worrying about things. And so I decided then, early doors, cannabis wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And
so
yeah, I thought I had the drugs sussed out, right? I thought I proper had the drugs sussed out.
You never do. No one ever does have the drugs sussed out. That's the one thing about them. But anyway. You know, you had that. Now then, what did you go into? Because everyone can say, and I can see, you're very intense when you put your
I put my mind to something. Yeah.
Put your mind something that you're not going to shift. You're not going to be talked out of it. You're not going to slow down, and you're going to give it 100% your full attention. Now, we can't get away from saying it, and we're not going to go into drama, but it's such a major part of your life that people need to hear in a concise matter, put direct. What caused the Decahegi in as concise a mode so people can understand this, focusing in on Decahegi very quickly without going into it? What happened?
I can see how people, you know, it's like, I don't blame people for looking at me, right, and saying, you know, you're shouting this all the time, you're shouting this all the time. You must be hiding something yourself. What people need to understand was, on the days of Facebook, I was supporting Decahegi. I was looking, and then people say, imagine looking at Decahegi for mental health. Yeah. But at the end of the day, guys, unless you've been there, you know, a lot of people, when you see somebody with 36,000 people following them and taking advice from them, well, I'm no different. I left school with no education whatsoever. So I started sticking up for Deca in a way, because Deca was asking us to go and get this boy, i.e. it was called Danny Jackson at the time, i.e. Danny Christie. Deca was asking us, who I'm looking at mental health advice, thinking of tagging somebody in him that was self-harming. And then I says to Deca, go and batter him. I'm brought up in a mining village, and if somebody's got to call you these things, go and deal with it.
Yeah.
You know, and then he come out with, well, I'm moving up in the world. I've got a film career. I've got a movie star. I've got this, that, and the next thing. And I said, well, fair enough, but on the same thing, you're engrossed in getting people to go and attack this guy here. And I've told Danny, the first time I watched the video of Danny, I thought the guy was an arsehole.
Oh, well, you're
So
ready for long.
what I done on was, I said to Decker on his page, I mean, I've got everything, I've saved everything. I said, Decker, go and meet him in a field. No dirty fights, just go in a field and teach him a lesson. If you're not what he says he is, and Annie blocked me. Now, people maybe think that's a bit extreme to go to for just getting blocked, but it was the abuse I got in his comment section, yeah, for trying to entice him to go and have this fight. And I mean abuse, right? And I'm going, wow, where the hell did that come from? I never said anything. I just said, you get in a bloody field and sort them, like, that's what we get taught. Anyway, so I made up a page on, and I thought, I'm going to teach this about manners. And that was all it was. I thought, I'm just going to teach you some manners, not to just go blocking people. And that's basically what happened. I started making up a stupid couple of cartoons and getting into them and just kind of big stupid, and it just grew legs.
But do you think that, like a lot of things, and I've found this in life, when you start focusing in on one thing or one thing starts staying up, now you used to always say this to people, I'd say be very careful because it's sort of happening too many times, John. You'd start on one thing, then it would open up a vortex and it would get wider and wider. Then people would be getting sucked into this vortex. And I said, it just gets bigger and bigger. Yeah. It never gets small, it always gets bigger. Then you've got, like you've seen now, you get the YouTube wars flying off and one person's a fan of theirs. Yeah. But do you think you have to always have your mind occupied 100%? Or are you the type of person that can actually sit down and say, oh, I'm going to relax and not do anything? Or would that drive you totally mad, the idea of
too much goes on and my brain needs something to concentrate on. It'd drive you mad, not having something to work on. If I put my mind to something and I give it my full, I mean, I don't know if you've been watching the stuff I've been doing with the Paddy Conroy stuff. I mean, some of the things I'm finding there, but again, I've had to remove myself, and I can see why people were saying, oh, you're doing this for Steve Rafe. I'm not. I'm doing this because I was, again, a fan of Paddy Conroy. And then,
look, this is it. I get this. I'm supposed to be on your payroll and everything, and people. And I was getting to one point because it was on Steve Rafe. Oh, you're in with Steve Rafe and all this. It's just when people say that you can't, right, boss man, you're going after. Timed out, you're not learning your lesson, are you? That's
anybody that calls himself a big boss man is they're short.
Well, it's disgusting what to say.
Yeah, I've already blocked it. It was on Emma Cockrell's channel the other night. They're doing the same thing.
Well, I'll give people else do them. Look, Joe Pesky is in there. Of course, he's not a fan of yours, but she isn't saying anything. They're saying what they want to say, but they're not being horrible and crude about it. But when they start getting crude and
see what happens is, just briefly, because I want to kind of explain to people as well with the drug side of things, which I don't speak about much, but I think you can buy time, but you can't buy experience. But just quickly on the Decker thing, on if I could just show everybody exactly the extent of what we've been told and what we've had to sift through and things we've had to defend him on, because he's. People have been trying to get us to put out false stuff about him, which we'll never be responsible for. At the end of the day, we've had people connected to him, we've found out recently, coming at us with false stories. So we're hoping that we'll push out something false about him so that he can get us done with community slander or whatever. Yeah. Decker told everybody in 2019 if we didn't stop, that we'd be getting arrested and everything. My name's John Wason. My date of birth's out there. Everything's out there. I've nothing to hide. The acro thing again, I'm so happy it grows legs because I'm a bit of a joker, and I wait until somebody thinks I've got something on me, and then I'll just produce, as you're about to find out, I'll just send you on and say, deal with that, because it's like at the end of the day, if I had that stuff or anything like that to hide, I wouldn't be here. I would never put my neck on the line.
can I? Because this is the opportunity I've got now, right, to talk to you,
Yeah.
and because it's nagging like toothache it is at times, and I've said this to you in the past. You know, no battle is worth your health for one, or you know, it's just not worth it. And sometimes I see you, and you're so stressed out with it. And do you remember how Brian Harvey repeats everything again and again and again and again? And it's like he's trying to hypnotize you into you.
It's a bit like Paddy Conroy and Brian Harvey was quite the same, but I put that down to a lot of cannabis psychosis with them, man.
But what I'm saying is, sometimes I have this with the police issue. Sometimes you gotta say to yourself, you know, level it out, and that's why I asked John to do this, because if anyone saw Humble Dry, now I spoke to you in the background, and I know that you can't be a decent fella, right? As long as you don't upset or say anything to needle you.
No, but I can deal with the truth, and it's if somebody comes and tells you something that I know that you've got a completely wrong person, that kind of, that I always say to people, if you want to talk to me, just contact me. You know, it's
But what I'm saying is, that's why I say something, because you've become like, I don't know if anyone agrees with me in the chat when they say this, you've become synonymous with Decahegi and like trying to separate the two. Because I remember when you first followed me, I didn't know who Humble Dry was. No one did at that time, and I thought you were just that creepy little mouse thing was in that whole set and all that. So I was like, and then that blew up. But I didn't know who the hell you were at the time. Just like you'd agree with things and that way it happened. But because you have to get off by in about 5 minutes, don't you?
For me, I'm okay.
Oh, you're okay. But the thing is that I don't know. I just, Ava, I know you can make it up your own.
Ask me anything on.
Do you think it's trying to put in words? That's what I'm struggling with.
Just spit it.
Is this going to end up if you are in a year's time still saying the same thing, still doing the same videos, still doing? Can you envisage that next year doing the same thing, or will you sort of some point
with Deca? Do you know the only reason I get in Deca now, and I have done for a wee while, because a lot of people think I've left them down. And when I refer to a lot of people, and I'm talking a lot of people behind the scenes who I've always had, I've never met them, who think, you know, at the end of the day, because I was always prepared to come out, but I preferred going into the shop and nobody ever recognised me, because I like living out in the sticks here. I like to walk the dogs. I don't like. I like to be around a lot of people.
Yeah.
I've been in that busy lifestyle. I chased heroin on and off for 16 years. I've been in a lot of positions that I wouldn't ask anybody to be in their life. But I've also hung on to the morals that I was brought up to have.
Yeah. So what, because that sums up a person. What are your models? What do you define as things, codes that must be kept to?
I think my morals are, like, if I see somebody out there, like a lot of people would say, like Danny Christie. Now I'll always be a bit biased towards him, because I count him as a friend right now. I never knew him before, and at the end of the day, I know that he's going to his steps program. I know that, and I'm not somebody that will ever push a Bible into somebody's face. Never. I'll never do that. I've got my own beliefs. I believe in God, and that's it. You know, some things, I don't go to church on a Sunday thinking all the shit I've done during the week, I should be given forgiveness for that. Yeah, I do believe in God. I've got every right to believe in him for the things that there must be somebody out there that's helped me along, survive everything I've been up. I've woke up with the wires hanging off me many a times. No through trying to kill myself, but I've been on heart monitors more times than I care to remember. So that I would say maybe it was my sister looking, or maybe somebody's looking after me, because there's no chance. Like I hear people saying one thing, they were maybe in one accident or something. I've been in so many car accidents and through so many windscreens. Every scar I've got myself's no way a person. That's with going through a window or going through this or going through that. And I think all the years I've been on drugs, I never went robbing people's houses as I've been accused of. I have broken into a locked fast container or two. I did take the theft charge rather than the reset charge because reset's worse. The judge looks at it. If you didn't buy it, they wouldn't steal it. So I have took theft charges when it should have been reset charges. But in amongst all that, I have never been cautioned or assaulting a woman or breaking into like the neighbours' houses or that. And that was 16 years on and off and chasing a smack addiction, which a lot of people will. I don't know. I'm very when I see people doing this, right, and I understand what it is to chase an addiction, but I was always one of the people who would just lie and rattle and go through the withdrawal, yeah, and wait for my next bit of money to come rather than going out like I was never one of the, I needed to go and get that because I need it now. I was never one of the kind of junkies, if that's the word that I use. I was never a junkie in that frame, but I was addicted to a drug that I took for the very first time, no knowing what it was.
Yeah.
And I could put my hand in the Bible and swear I took a drug that I had I knew what heroin was. Yeah, because I'd seen a guy cutting his throat and jumping off a bloody bridge. I knew exactly what that was, but I always thought it always came in a needle. I didn't have any clue that you could put this powder on a bit of foil and it would caramelise and you would run it and you'd inhale the fumes and it would forget every bit of worry you've had in your brain for that week would just disappear. I had no idea about it. When I first took it, that's what I took. I was sick. But it was like, I remember saying to the boy, he was just out of prison, who didn't really, in all fairness, I will never blame anybody for my addiction because I had the brain to educate myself on drugs. As much as we never got educated at school, I should have had enough. I'd been and took the ecstasies, I'd been and took the amphetamine, I'd done all that stuff, I'd done it. You know, I'd had to come down, I took magic mushrooms, I'd experienced psychedelic trips and all the rest of it. So I will never blame somebody for putting that drug in my hand and trying it. I will never do it because I should have known better.
Yeah,
but
anyway, the thing, how old were you, John? Come on, tell us how old you were.
Well, this is me. I was late to that kind of stuff. I actually thought I was in about 19, but wasn't looking at until I looked at my criminal record. I never get to jail until I was 23, so I was in about 2021 before I tried it.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, my job and everything went to tits. My relationship was already on the rocks because I was working 24/7, yeah, and spending absolutely. Hindsight's a great thing. So that was going Pete Tong. But in the night time, I was doing my mileage sheets, I was doing my time sheets, and all the rest of it. And it was just I was just getting into And at the end of the day, so when I took it, I remember saying to the boy, "What does it do to you?" He said, "It makes you forget all your worries, a bit like cannabis." And I went, "Fuck that! I'm not touching that. I don't like cannabis." And he went, "It's more advanced." And all I did was took 2 lines of that shit up and did that foil. And he was right. It did take off my timesheets now. I never for that one or that couple of hours, I had no worry of going home and getting my head napped and filling out mileage sheets and that. Just for a few hours, I never had that worry. The constant stress that I'd gathered up for the few years, I never had it.
Dr. Feelgood, that's what it is.
Everything was gone. I couldn't have cared if my car. I was actually driving and stopping a lay-by. I couldn't have cared if my doors had fell off the car on the way home. That's how much these drugs. When people get into such a state, it's not because the drug is bad initially. Yeah, that drug is very, very good initially. However, you've got a couple of days of feeling very, very good, and then you wake up and you've got a big dark cloud. And
this is what happens. Happens, right? It's not. And the worst thing is that when you get people addicted to it, they're addicted to it not to get the high. They're addicted to it to just feel normal or a semblance. I heard that from so many when it was at the probation service with drug users. They used to say that. They said what it is. You've just described the initial high when you first start using. They said then it becomes a thing just to feel normal. They said you're using it. And that's the absolutely horror about it.
And it's no, see when people think they're taking it just to feel normal, they're taking it to feel as normal as they can possibly feel to be normal again. but it's no, you like, when I say that depression, you wake up with that dark cloud on you, because you can take it 3 or 4 days. It's in the 4th day, after taking it 4 days in a row, you've got a habit.
Yeah.
You're now going to go, you're going to have to do withdrawal. I've done it many times where I can take it 1, 2, 3 days, stop, have no, the body just, it kind of deals with it. If you take it 4 days in a row, it doesn't matter if you're on it 4 months, 4 year, 40 year, you're going to do this exact same withdrawal, yeah? And this is a lot of people out there who's taking these drugs. What you need to learn, right, guys, and I've done it many a time, the body's a great thing. When you get into 36 to 48 hours after your last hit, yeah, and you're withdrawing, as soon as you get to 36 to 48 hours, your body will take the convulsions and all the rest of it. After that, you only get better. You're going to get better after that. Yeah. And this is where a lot of people get to that stage and they're scared. And I understand how they're scared, because your body's broken, your heart's gone, you're sore, your legs are sore, your muscles are, and by this point you're probably down to about 8 stone because you've no eating right. But you need to learn that you're only going to get better after that.
But this is the thing. This is why I always said, when someone gives it up, and it is a thing that once you get over that initial horrible stage, that's it. No cravings. It's not like smoking where the cravings can still be there.
It's not like that. No.
It's not like that at all. So that when someone goes back on them, that's when I say when the law shouldn't be lenient, because they go through very expensive programs with the probation service to get them off these drugs, and lots of them do that are determined to get off it. But if they go back on it, they haven't gone back on it because they're yearning for it. They've gone back on it just because and it's like, well, then it should be, look, you do it once, we'll help you. You do it again, you're going to get smacked, because it's just, you've got to learn that you don't do this kind of thing.
My girls are at school, and right, and in the last year I said to them, what is the drugs education now at school? And speaking to them, they've got no more education at schools what they had 30 years ago when I was at it. There's no more drugs education, and this is where I've had when I had drugs workers, yeah, because if you're put on a reduction program or whatever, I was never on methadone. It was more a pill thing. I could never take methadone. I watched the amount of money's wasted, right, on certain things which is not going to work. Okay. And one of my drugs workers was like, John, why don't you come to the meetings? And I was like, what meetings? Our meetings. And I'm like, I'm not coming to your meetings. That's for you. He's like, no, but we need somebody like you in the meetings because we can't get our point across. And I'm like, well, I did think about it, and then I thought, nah, man, because they were asking me to be a mentor, and that. Even last year, I had a phone call asking me if I'd worked in the Stranraer, but I'd feel a bit of a hypocrite, and because, I will never take a mantle from somebody on the pretense that I'm somebody I'm not.
Well, do you know what, Jonathan? I've said this, and I used to say this in the probation service. What the best thing to go into schools, because kids, especially teenagers nowadays, more than they were in the past, they don't like being preached to. They don't like being told, "Oh, that's bad." If someone comes in that they perceive to be an old fogey, and it's like anyone over 35 is an old fogey to a teenager. It comes in, well, what you do, and this is what happens, and that what happens. Yet they'll sit there attentively and go, yeah. They're not taking any notes of it because they don't think it will happen to them, and that's the truth about it. But if you get in, and we used to have some real rough ones, and they'd be going through trying to get off the drug for multiple times. They'd be coming off it, and you'd see them, and it's the most horrible thing to see. They'd be really in pain, and you'd see that horrible cold sweat. It wasn't just an ordinary sweat, it was a cold sweat, and the ashen face, the teeth all gone and all this. And you say, get one of them into those schools, put them in front of them, and now you know what I'm like with cursing and swearing and being violent. I don't like it at all. I would have picked the most vulgar mouthed, hard-arsed, in your face, taking
Really,
no
at the right
nonsense
moment in time makes a
there, yeah,
difference.
and say, put that person in there and let them see what it's like trying to get off it. Not what it's like being on it, trying to get off it. Because then you'll see it. And that's why I say when you get people like Marvin Herb and all that with all the scars, show your scars and say, this is the reality of it. If it's going to have an effect, that's going to have an effect.
Marvin's definitely 100% got a story out there that he's any man who's been shot in the bollocks, yeah, never mind the eye, any man that's took a bullet in the bollocks through being drug dealing or whatever, yeah, and survived that, has got a story to tell. Any man, Marvin Herbert. I don't understand why Marvin Herbert's channel was destroyed, yeah, because Marvin Herbert has probably one of the most genuine stories out there. And I'm not just saying this because he's got numbers or that. I don't know the guy, but I know he's got a story, yeah.
Well, he's got a story, but I wouldn't say he's too much genuine, I say, because in my mind, the only reason he's had to do this, and he's had to do it, is because if he goes back into prison, he's going to get his butt kicked, and he knows he is. So he's too broken, he's too injured to be able to survive in prison as a big man anymore. So he can't
it's
go
really
back
hard
into prison.
Though, and today, like as I say, I try and keep my moral. When you're saying what that's described as my morals, it's trying to see, like, trust is a big thing for me. If you break my trust, my kids will not lie to me. If I ask my girls something, they'll tell me the truth because they know I can deal with them telling me the truth. I can't deal with a liar. I hate a liar.
Can't. They do so much damage. I'd rather have someone tell me the truth that I won't like than someone come out with the blame. Because they call it, my mama used to say that. My mama said, give me a murderer, give me a thief. But keep a liar well away from me because they're the most destructive.
You can watch a thief, you can trust a thief, but you can't trust a liar. You can't watch a liar. It's like I was brought up with my grandparents where this is where to get to this stage, my gran and my grandpa would say, I'll stand by you by everything, anything, murder, anything except drugs.
Yeah.
Except drugs. So you can imagine me. My gran I played a double life for a while, and because as much as I say I was on it for 16 years, that's not entirely on. I was on and off it for 16 years, but in amongst that, I still managed to get to work at my uncle's when if I wasn't whatever. I still managed to work as much as I could. I still managed to put an extension onto our house. When I walked away from my girl's mother, when we split up, I left the house. I could have took half the house. I could have made her sell it. I didn't want that. It was easier for me to go and start from scratch again than it was a mother with three girls at this point, being the mother of my three girls. And I found it easier walking away and starting from scratch with absolutely nothing, as long as my kids had that there with their mum, like in a nice school, in a nice house. You know, that my kids having an ensuite bathroom, we had to bloody travel down the stairs and everything to use one bathroom in the house. We had no radiators at first when I was a kid. They used to close on the inside of the window before double glazing and that came. I didn't want to experience the cold winter mornings.
Someone's just said something, I won't say how they've actually worded it, but they say don't drug users slide through and pinch, so you're a hypocrite, really humble.
But
let's just say
something. You're on drugs, you will lie and you will. But again, I was never one of the housebreakers who went out and robbed. I was quite lucky because my grandmother, especially after experiencing, I will never stand beside you. I'll stand beside you apart from drugs. And then we had she was learning about it, and then so my grandmother, she would always say, "Are you all right for money?" Things like that. I never had to go out and steal. I never had to go out and borrow. I never had to go out and beg. But how would that have been if I never had my gran in that there? Well,
the thing is, I was going to say this, John. The fact that you always had a money supply, whereas if you hadn't you would have done whatever you felt you needed.
That's what I mean. I can never actually I can never judge somebody because unless I didn't have that money supply.
Yeah.
I wasn't about a big supply of money. It was a constant trickle of it. Yeah, like I don't know. I would never judge some. I can judge. I don't like people going out and robbing old people's handbags and that. Right? I don't like that. But I can't judge. I can't judge people going out and bagging. I can't do it.
Wait a minute. I think I've done something. Is there a Harry L. Johnson? I've just blocked you for 5 minutes, putting in timeout. It's the wrong person to put in timeout. Never mind. It will come. It will go in 5 minutes. No,
I mean, there's Bobby Crush. That's a decker one. You bullied his granny. One thing I would not. In fact, before my gran died, she waited until we were all there. Before she died, and she made us promise that my gran and grandpa made them both promise that we watched them. We never put them in a nursing home. And we made that deal as a family that I lived in a sofa beside a hospital bed in a living room for 6, 7, 8 months. I don't know however long with my grandpa. And I used to sit up during the night and make sure he was trying to pull his catheter bag and everything. I done months of that. But at the end of the day, it was, that's the way life's meant to go. You're meant to care for your elders and no the other way around about. It was the same with my gran. But when it came my gran, because she was female, they taken her to the toilet and everything. We had to get help in because we were all boys, and taking her dignity. She was very proud. She wouldn't go out of the house unless she'd her hair done and stuff like that. So taking her dignity, and we just couldn't. We had to get people and we had to get women and Macmillan nurses. Thanks very much for them. The Macmillan nurses were great, and they done things that us as men in the house struggled
she
to do.
wouldn't have wanted you to. She wouldn't have wanted you to.
Taking her dignity, take my grand's dignity. Yeah, that was no chance.
So you've had a life that's been full of. But it sounds like you've had a lot of success. You've had this and the other, but you've also had, which most of us have actually. You can't live a life, can you, without having some kind of trauma coming into it, or some kind of horrible events that you'd rather not happen. But now that you are where you are now, how do you think it shaped you as a person? And I want the brutal truth. I don't want, I've learned this, I've learned that. If you say, I couldn't tell you, I'm just as I am now, and that's the way I am.
I think maybe a lot of people misjudges. I'm very defensive in something. If I'm doing something, I know it's right. I maybe know the best of teachers. I'll give it that. Though, and a lot of people maybe come at me initially, and sometimes I've just had a bad day, and I just, I can't be bothered. I've not got the time today, and that's not right because. As a person, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot. All this experience here with this deck of things learnt me a lot. And because one, I understand trauma now, as in victims of sex. I understand trigger warnings. I understand I can spot it when somebody's been honest because it's the things they don't speak about and the shame they carry that you can differential from. At the beginning, I mean. Everybody that's, as I've said to everybody, right, people out there saying that I attack that, everybody, I would say, give me that person who I've attacked and I will give you reason for it. I'm not the kind of person who'll go out and attack somebody for nothing. That's not me, it's not in my character, hence the reason I get suspended all the times at school, but they always kept me, they never ever put me out for good, they always brought me back. Only because I never ever done it for nothing. I never just went and attacked a person or bullied a person for nothing. I would defend somebody or defend myself. It was
But the thing is, what have you learned? See, now you told me what you do. You haven't told me what you've learned or why you are a shot. Because our life experiences make us what we are. I can look back and see things, and I think that's why I'm the way I am in certain ways. It's like one thing, someone's, I forget, someone in the chat's going on about no one likes this, that, the other. People find me joke and cheat. They either Marmite or, they either love me or they hate me in that way. And when people you say, oh, you're negative and all this, you're drama, and all this, that, and the other, I'd say, I was being honest, but I'm not being flippant to say, well, do you think it bothers me what you think? I don't even know you. I've never met you. And I don't live my life by what people think about me. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. If there's something that I've done wrong, yeah, I need to be pulled up on it. But that comes from, and I know where that attitude comes from, that comes from being brought up in an industry and in a family where everything was this. Everything was, you were on show, you were expected to perform, you were expected, your feelings didn't matter. It was like showtime has to happen and all that. And I was, not that that was anything abusive or anything that put me through trauma. It didn't, because I was brought up in that from when I was a very young child. So it was like breathing to me.
But were you brought up in a, were you brought up on where, like, if we were asked something in the house, yeah, my grandpa was the boss, yeah, I never ever swore directly at my grandpa or anything. That was a no. Yeah, like you did get you get brought up with strict rules, yeah. But if we get asked something on, we only get asked something once. We never get asked something repeatedly because we were honest. We people in the house could deal with the truth.
I didn't ask John. This my family. You didn't ask. In other words, I didn't think to ask, because when you were told to do something, or this was going to, you were going to go here, you were going to go there, that was it. Yeah. The thought of asking why never entered my mind. And what I was trying to say was that when you get to that point where everything is for everyone else, it's appearance and everything is, that's what it's aimed at. And I used to always get, when people would slate me, and I'd just go, yeah, because that's the way it was. Ignore when people are calling you ugly. Ignore when people are calling you this, that, and the other. Or why you'll that be, yeah. Then suddenly when I got to about, I'd say, God, it was late on. It was my 30s, and I thought, stuff this. No one's telling me what I should act like again. No one said it's my time now to be me. Not be performing for people or be on show. And what I'm thinking of, I can relate that, so that when I say now, I'm not listening to why you're telling me what you think about me. I don't care. I don't care whether this sounds horrible, and I don't mean it, people, as rough as it sounds, but it's the only way I can say it.
Well, you're no good.
I don't care whether
any orders off people on YouTube.
I don't care whether people like me. I don't care whether people hate me. And I don't mean that in the whole way. It does sound so like, oh, you don't matter. I know people do matter. There's lots of people, like friends I have on YouTube, whatever, that they do matter to me, and I like them. So I'm not saying that, but it's just like, it doesn't faze me. But with you, can you look back at something? What I'm searching for is to look back at something where this intensity has come out, that you've got to get a result. And you won't stop until you get a result. Where does that come from? Was it your work ethic was put into you? Or is it just that you can't handle the idea of never getting a result when you start something?
I don't know. That's a good question, and I really don't know. I think we were always taught, like if you're going to start something, finish it, And sometimes I kind of got lackadaisy with that through life. I'd start a million jobs, maybe about the house, and then, one day I'd just decide that I was going to finish all the jobs. And I think, I don't know, I think I struggled with boredom a lot. I struggled with boredom. Like, I'd get bored very quick or something. And it's like learning box breathing and stuff like that, just later on in life. And I'm like, why did they not try and teach us this at school? Like, things that I found easier to deal with. But that's a good question, I really don't know.
Mr. So, see, that's it. And I knew you'd say that you don't know. I knew it. I knew it. That's why I asked. Well, I'll say in a minute what I meant by that and why I asked him. Mrs. O said something here. And Mrs. O's okay. You ever felt like you have bullied anyone on here, Humble? Which is a reasonable question, isn't it? Have you ever felt that you've thought that you've bullied someone and gone too far with it?
Oh, yeah, I'll be honest with that, yeah. I felt like it wasn't until somebody pointed it out to me last year that I was joined in bullying a group that was going after Paul for fighting trogs, I realised I was bullying. I was bullying with a large group. I was bullying. But again, it wasn't until somebody pointed that out that you're just as bad because you're now bullying them as well. And I thought, wow, I should have been able to see that.
And another thing, this one, which would lead on to that, have you ever thought that you've got involved in something that really is someone else's argument? And that's why you can be seen as, let's say, trolling or bullying, because you've got involved in something that really the person hasn't done it to you, it's done it to someone you like, or they've done it to
Well,
someone
that's
you
what I mean.
like.
It's like
Allegedly.
Well, I've made it clear now, Ken, at the end of the day, I've never met Decca. Donna's never met Decca. And this
Oh,
is
I'm not talking about Decca. I'm just
Sorry.
talking about not Decca at all. I can understand where you're coming from with Decca.
Uh-huh.
May not agree with you the way you do it, but I can understand where you're coming from. But what I mean is, have you ever got involved? I mean, Decca's your issue. That is famously your issue. But have you ever got involved in an issue with someone and you've gone after them, where that person really hasn't got the problem with you or hasn't done anything to you? In other words, you're getting involved in someone else's.
I maybe done it unknowingly. I might have done it unknowingly. That again, until somebody actually points something out. I mean, like you're never too. Every day's a lesson. You learn something in every day.
Yeah.
If not, it's not worth bloody waking up if you're not going to learn a lesson from it.
Yeah.
I might was willing to learn and I might was willing to listen, but it depends again if somebody comes at that with that school teacher approach at me, if I put the shutters down or I've opened it up and have a conversation.
Because that's it. I think what is, sometimes I've said, so only a couple of times I thought you're getting involved in someone else's battle, and it's usually better to say, that's your business, mate. You fight your own battles, and I'll stick to my side. I'll support you, but you sticking to that.
Yeah.
So also, but this is getting back to this, why I asked you that question about had you learned it and you couldn't actually specify. Now, this isn't me choosing, it's just saying.
No, don't go back in.
I think what it is, I think we all can reflect from actually going back and saying, does this stem from something? Not to cure the problem, not to do that, but to understand why you're doing it. Because as I said, me looking back to that didn't make me think, oh, now I'm a lovely, wonderful person that everyone will love, because I've realized where that arrogance came from, of saying to people, I don't care. As I've realized where it comes, but it hasn't changed me. But if you have thoughts of going back so you can more or less put the roots in the ground and say, well, that's why I am doing this, because it stems back to that. Doesn't mean that you're going to change. It just means that you understand. And I think when you understand, it's easier on you than yourself.
Yeah, I can totally understand why, like, if I'm watching somebody, right, without mentioning, I'll mention them, yeah. Like, there's Paddy, for example. I totally believed that Paddy was innocent and he'd been accused of these things. Now, bear in mind, I was a fan of Paddy Conroy's, more on an entertainment side of things. I wasn't taking seriously what he was saying. But then when you start looking into the seriousness of what he is saying, and I get it where dirtiest hands point to dirtiest fingers, and folk could say the same for me with Decca, and I totally get that, why they would say that, because that is people shouting these things. You have to look and go, why are you shouting that? Why are you shouting that? But as I said, all the things with Decca was totally accidental. Totally. I just wanted to teach him a lesson, make up a Facebook page, slag him for a couple of days and bugger off. That was all. Well, I didn't. If I knew what was going to happen here, would I have done it again? I don't know, Anne.
Well, I know, look, let's put it this way. You can see a lot of the time that someone will have a go at you and they'll get very pissed against Donna as well. Very pissed, don't start making up. And that space, which is only naturally going to do that, that will spare you on. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, going after someone in that situation. But I'll name a name and hope he doesn't get pissed with me for saying this, right? Jamie Boyle
Jamie Boyle.
I'm just going to say, what has he done to you? Other people have issues with him, but what he's actually done to you? That's what I mean by going in someone else's argument.
Well, I'm quite sure Jamie, I first video called him on, and we were actually going down by the Windmill Road. It's like it's not a very good. It's got a kind of canyon in it.
No, but before we go on, John, right? I don't want that he did this, he did that.
No, but I'm getting to
No,
what happened. So I made contact with Jamie to basically speak about. Well, I'll be honest, right? So Paul Venice, Jamie Boyle was consistently trying to get Paul Venice onto Decca Heggy's podcast. I'd gotten to know Paul Venice through quite an awkward situation because somebody was wanting to fight him, and then came to us saying, "Get on that Paul Venice." I said,
but
"Do you
wait
know
a minute. What I'm being careful here, John, I don't want to get into Jamie did this shit, because I do have a lot of time for Jamie.
And
but
tic tac, sorry,
right.
see that tic tac there, yeah? I seen you mentioning my ex-missus, my girl's missus, yeah? I'm all over you, tic tac, you bastard.
Do you want me to get rid of them?
No, leave them there. I like gathering their data.
But what I'm saying is, right, I want you to tell me,
They're
yes.
mentioning my girl's mum, yeah, who's nothing to do with this, yeah? So
Shall I get rid of them? Do you want me to?
No, leave them there. I like watching them.
Well, listen to what I'm saying. Ignore them then. It's what I want to know, yes or no, instead of did this, did that, and the other. What has he done specifically to you? That's what I'm saying.
Jamie told his wife, Shirley, that I was making fun of her having cancer. When I said to
How
Shirley,
do you know he said that?
Because Shirley told me.
She told you.
Shirley said that I was making fun. I was saying that she was lying about having cancer. And I said, Shirley, Jamie has said in 3 different platforms that you've had 3 different types of cancer. Not me. I was not making fun of you having cancer. At this point, my uncle was actually dying with it. I said, I would not make fun of somebody. Your husband is said on 3 different platforms that you've had 3 different types of cancer.
Is that the one thing then?
That was that. And Jamie sending me a message via WhatsApp before he blocked me, calling me a ginger-headed bastard, and he was going to make sure that he done his best with Decca Heggie to expose me.
Yeah, but just let's put it this way, right?
Yeah.
Do you know, I just wish the two of you would get together and actually talk it out, right? Because you know what, there's battles, and I'm not belittling other people that are saying, they've got issues or whatever. I'm not belittling it at all. But I think it's something, hopefully, and I'll just leave it at this, that can be resolved. And just like people agree to say, well, let's stop this going on and going on and going on, because I hate watching it. I hate seeing this happen, and I don't like to see it happen at all. But again, I'm not dictating here. It's up to people what they do, and I'll stay out of it. But I wish it would get to a little resolution, and I think some things, another one.
I tried, Anne, this was the plan. Myself and Paul Venice was going to get Jamie and Shirley and Brian and Emma to sit down at a table, agree to disagree, and just move on, because it's not good for Jamie's health, it's not good for Brian's health. And in between that, people are getting caught in the crossfire trying to solve it and then getting dragged into it. And that's basically, me and Paul had high hopes for them four to sit down, because I'll always be loyal to Brian, and I'll tell you why, Anne. Before, on the run up to Decca's exposé, Decca get people to go trying to get people to stop talking to me, Donna. And Decca said, why is Brian and Emma consistently talking to my trolls? And Brian took back Brian out of everybody, and Brian was the only person, apart from Danny, but he couldn't speak. Brian was the only person, and Steve, sorry, that these only people who said, I'm going to keep talking to John and Donna. They've never done anything wrong to me. They've never came and tried to tell me stuff about you. Because and as you know, when I talk to you in the background, they would talk about Decca and that. No, we just talk about normal things, and that's what people don't get. And because of that, and he was taking a proper hammer and he stopped speaking to us. And he never flinched. He went, no, at the end of the day, they've never been bad to me and Emma. They've all, and again, I'd love nothing, even after last night, I would love nothing better than Jamie and Brian and all that to just stop all this shit, because it's not good for their healths.
Well, let's just I mean, the onus isn't on one person, it's on the two of them to want to do that. And I say you can't force anyone. And this is what happened with Paddy Conroy and Decca, essentially. Decca tried to be the peacemaker, didn't he? Oh, I'll have you on. And I said, you shouldn't have done that, Decca. I did a video saying it because you're taking the power out of Paddy's hand. He's going to look totally reasonable if he says no. And what did Paddy do? He did what we see. He went right against him. So as I say, hopefully they can. And if any of them watching out there, the office out there to just get it off the plate. Let's put it that way.
I mean, it's not good. It's really. I mean, there might be people out there who might think, "Oh, but you went against Mike Cousin, or you went against me." But are they telling you the initial why I went after him? I don't go after anybody for nothing. That's
well, what I'm saying, John, when you've got several. I always say select. If you've got an issue with someone, or you want to expose someone, or show them up for being the absolute a-holes they are, I always say select who you're going to, and be careful that you don't go awry into just someone that doesn't really matter, or you haven't got the issue with, because then you look like a troll.
Yeah, no.
See what I'm saying? It looks like, oh my God, because I've seen you and people have said horrible things about you, and I think, yeah, you've got the right to hit back at them because they've said the most horrendous things about you and done it. So you've got the right to do that.
But you look at who it is on behind the screens. You've got Burkett and that behind screens saying something, Docs Madriff and that. They don't mean nothing to me. They're just little people who like to bully their way through the internet. What they don't, what the better people don't know, it's maybe coming across me for the first time. The majority of people like your Tony Burkett's and all that are behind the screens on their keyboard, firing at my dress. Yeah. But what they're doing is, if you don't agree, they are the proper bully. You'll not get me going into a women's inbox and threatening to go through their house windows and all the rest of it. But I've got the amount of people that have been sent a Tony Burkett sending me just that, threatening to get through their doors and all the rest of it. These people, Tony Burkett and that, they're nothing, they're nobody's, absolute nobody's.
When you're talking about Burkett, when you're talking about Ellis and all that, God bless, just
smart kid, Stacey, sorry. I never bought Burkett a laptop or a phone, mate. I sent him 150 quid, because he was crying that he'd broke his laptop. He sent me a picture of a broken screen. But one thing, and trust me in this, right? If I had ever sent them money to do bad things on my behalf, they would have put that evidence out there. If anything, I woke up most mornings, Stacey, and I'd phone them and saying, what you got to do? You've got to get us on the fucking jail. Take that down. And that's what I done. I try to keep them out of bother. Try to stop them being stupid. I've never asked anybody to go and troll for me. Or I just go, I can get my own hands dirty. I don't need to go and make up all these accounts. If, like, at early stages, if I was through half a sentence and somebody would block me, I would go and make up another account with the same name and come in and finish my sentence. I would make 20 accounts up with the same name to make sure that I was finishing my sentence, because I found it rude to get.
I know you don't go around telling people to.
I don't know. I've not, because you know yourself, Tony Burkett and all that would have stuck all that stuff out if I had.
Look, that fella, my God, just horrible. But sometimes, though, no, just put this by you. You know, like people like Exposure TV and that and all that, it looks very much like that you got involved there as a platform, and he does seem to turn on people that you are having issues with at that time. And it's like, it's very much as if, all that I can say, a puppet master.
Clash of Clans, though, isn't it? And I've never been into these gaming clans and all the rest of it, but you'll find that it's like Cesspit and Exposure TV. It's like a Clash of Clans. And it's good for banter and it's good for laying the hair down. But probably I should stay off it if I've had a drink on a Saturday night. And I do get a bit angry at things, but it's like...
It's just... Now, what I'm saying is, it's just... that's can look like, you know, it was like Joe Kidd as well. It was exposure. Then just suddenly Joe Kidd, and it's like, why is Joe Kidd on exposure here? And it all seemed to be like a team that was being produced, or this, you know, is being grown and grown and grown.
Yeah.
Then suddenly Steve Wraith wants to be on Exposure TV, and it's like, it's exposed. Do you get what I'm saying? And Joe Kidd, it's all like everyone's with everyone else, and I know by nature you'll go towards what you want.
There's too many WhatsApp groups, and I can put my hand in the Bible. I am not in any group. I'm not in any group that any more than 2 people in them. Yeah, because at the end of the day, that is where there's too many WhatsApp groups and chats. If I go into a live, one of them will get a WhatsApp, and the next thing that they'll come over. But it's fine, because listen, if there wasn't people out there hating me, my word, when they get across, I don't care if they hate me as a person or whatever, because it's irrelevant. It's not like we're bumping into each other on the street. As long as they know when I'm speaking about Deckers Acro and things about Paddy Conroy that I'm no lying, that's all that is. I will make mistakes. We make mistakes on a daily basis, but I will not go out there and lie and put my name in things for anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't do that, Anne, because I'd just go against my grandpa would be turning his grave if I was to get there and do things like people think, oh, you're doing this for Steve Wraith. No, it's no, I'm doing it because I was a fan of Paddy Conroy's. And he's insulting people out there. He is insulting people. Yeah. He's playing with people who's wanting people's loved ones brought and get a bit of respect for them. Paddy's playing with every sort of emotion out there under the book.
See, this is the thing you just get, and it's when you don't see an end to it, that's where it gets stressful. I think at some point, it's like me and Uncle Bobby. I always knew that would come to an end at some point, because of those, it's not worth, you know, carrying on, and you just have your say, and then you let it go. But now, let's get to you now, as you are John Humble today. Now, what is your life, or how do you see your life now, and the things you like about it, things you don't like about it?
And see, to be honest, I don't like showing off. If I was to take people just to walk around about my house and that.
No, you brag. You brag if you want to brag. I would.
No, but the reason I don't do it is because I know what it's like to have nothing. You know, to start from scratch again.
Never mind that. Look, right. If something, that's the question. Something that you're proud of. If you're proud of a success and having houses and having this and all the other cars, you've got the right to say that because you've worked for it. So you can say it's not going to look.
I'm proud of my kids coming up through school and, you know, not being suspended at their dad, you know, and going to college and, you know, going to university and stuff like that. Yeah, these are proud things. I'm proud of you. If I wasn't sitting here with this, I suppose my grandpa brought us up not to take any prisoners, and just be very black and white about things. I think people either like you, love or hate you. There's a no in between. I don't think. I can't. That's why. If I was to go there and have everybody in your chat liking me, and I'd be doing something wrong.
No, what it is, right, and that's why when we had arguments, you'd get away with a hell of a lot more than some other people would. They'd be blocked straight away, and that's it. Get out. And the reason is, I can actually understand where you're coming from along the time. When you say black and white, I've always been accused. As I'm getting older and mellowing, and I'm not as bad as I used to be, but everything was either right or wrong, black or white. There was no grey area. But I am, as I get older, understanding that actually there are a lot of grey areas that you can't put things either left or right. But I can see that in you. And that's why I can understand it when you blaze off. Because when you go, which I've seen you in private, no messages, you do, you're full on. It's not half baked. You don't go for it like half-hearted. You go for it full on. So I can understand where you're coming from with that. But do you think being like that is a good thing? And I can be like that. Believe me, I can be like that myself. As long
as my heart's in good condition, because I mean, I'd be fine. I'd be fine candidate for a heart attack later in life.
That's what I said to you.
Calm down because I can feel the blood.
I said to you once. You remember I said, I said, you've got to be careful because you looked really ill at one time. You walked down the road, remember, and you had that ashen look.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought,
yeah.
he's not getting any sleep here. I thought,
No,
this
what
is
had happened, Dan, is actually, I hadn't been at my doctor's for 10 years, but in between, at the time, I know exactly, but I still wanted, and the reason I put my face out there and when I was like shit was because when I come to explain things like maybe in i.e. a documentary and that, there's things that we've kept a daily calendar of, like
Yeah.
where my health took a baton, where I was going through the grieving process. Yeah.
Because
It'll make sense someday. It'll make sense someday. I mean, I went to the doctor's a few months ago there and come away with steroids, 2 inhalers. I mean, I hadn't been at them for 10 years. And then again, I only took antibiotics for a few days and then bent them. Think that's me better now. Ended up back at them last week again because I never finish a course of things. So
yeah.
I'll finish them this time. But he's giving me bloody steroids, inhalers, and
Oh, do you know what? When I had my heart attack, they tried to get me on all kinds of stuff. I wouldn't do it.
and I can see how people think I'm back on the gear and stuff like that. But again, because we're keeping a diary of things and that, you know, it's important. Maybe people think the worst at that time. That's fine. But I can assure you, like if I was to relapse onto heroin, you know, I wouldn't hide it, Anne, because I think if I did, I'd learn people like watch me doing a withdrawal here. I wouldn't hide it. I wouldn't. It's nothing. There's nothing I'm embarrassed about withdrawing for drugs and staying clean. If I was to relapse at this stage, yeah, I would document it and I would film it. I would show people there's nothing to be scared of doing a withdrawal over. I would film it all.
Well, this that you care that people think
Do
that.
I care? Well, to be honest,
I think you do.
If my kids see it, knowing that's not the script, I don't mind. I can take it, but I don't like the fact of the kids thinking, getting angry, knowing that's not what's happening, or Donna getting angry, knowing fine that's not what's happening. She would say, but that's unfair. But leave them do it because at the end of the day, they're maybe struggling with their own addiction right now, and to blame it, to think it's me, or to put their concentration on me, that you know that it might be giving them a bit of satisfaction to release what they're actually going through themselves. You know, if people shouting about somebody being constantly on heroin or back in heroin, you'll probably find they're struggling with an addiction themselves. And that's what
just one breaking, just to say this, Carrie Sky, right? Why did you go in at B. Harvey? I didn't go in at B. Harvey. No one knows the full story of what went on behind the background. I can assure you, he left me no option but to do what I did, what he did. No option. He created what was a very dangerous situation, potentially very dangerous. And that's the last I'll say on the matter. But now we've got USA, because we're coming on to the 2-hour mark shortly. Now, so you won't tell us what you're proud of. I would. I'd be saying, look at me pretty jewellery. Look at this and all this. I'd be bragging. But
what do you want? My dogs, my kids, and I'd love to put my kids on this, but I would never bring them to this corner of YouTube. As much as they watch it, some bits against me and telling them no to. At the end of the day, I'd love to, you know, it's like there's bigger things. There's always better things will come out of things. You always get good situations coming out of bad situations, no matter what you do in life.
Well, what would you like to change about your life now? At this moment, what would you, if you could say, right, this is going to change?
I don't know.
Nothing.
Can't think of anything, to be honest. I don't complain of things.
Now, exactly. Do you remember when I turned around and said you couldn't come up with a source for why you act in certain ways because you've never really examined that, have you? Now you don't know what you'd like to change. Have you ever thought that
I've no complaints?
This is it. You're looking at other people and not looking at yourself. Now, it's all right to look at other people. It's all right to do your campaign. That's fine. You want to do that. But are you examining yourself as well? In other words, what's that thing in the Bible where they say when you're looking at the splinter in my eye, you're ignoring the block
the one in your
own eye? Yeah, that way. Do you know that sort of sense?
I don't know. I try not to judge people. I do try my best now to judge anybody.
Oh, John, you do. I judge people, you judge people. Come on now, that's going a bit too
But
far. that.
again, the people I'll judge on, like I will judge Decker.
Mm.
My hands are clean. Have I committed fraud in my life? Yes, I have. Can I judge Dodgy Dave? No, I can't.
Oh, I can.
Well, you can. Your hands are clean of it. As I say, I can't judge you for having that.
Oh, for God's sake, I'm
I
not going to
can't
go
do
out to Dodgy Dave and that wife for this because the Comerster team, I'm sorry, she gets left out of this equation too much. The Comerster team, what they did.
I think more. I think more. Can Dodgy Dave's kids have to sit because they're watching us and see. That's how I get ice cream.
Well, they did that. Yeah, they did that. They did that. The parents did that, making children pretend they're disabled. But we'll get off that subject, because I know you.
Yeah.
That's up to you whether you want to.
I'll never judge anybody sitting filming it. They forms on and scamming the system. Personally, I would not. I'd rather they do that than get out and steal.
It depends what they're doing. I mean, I'm sorry, you don't make your children pretend that they've got disabilities. So that's that's training your children.
Be careful what you wish. My thing there would be careful what you wish for. That's what I'd be saying.
In other words, it's the wrong moral code. You're bringing your child up to be basically a cheat and a liar.
No, I'd be scared that instant karma there, where your child there that you
say that
having a disabled kid. Yeah,
exactly, John. I always say that it's horrible the way that can happen.
Yeah, and it does happen. It does happen. It does.
But
happen,
we won't keep on talking about them anyway because it's not fair. Because they're not here to defend themselves. But so any last thoughts, John, or anything? Well, the future. We haven't gone to the future. I forgot. What's your ideal future? Go on. When you get going towards old age, you used to do your apps where you were an old man and all this.
My future, if I don't know, if I don't want to be living to 80-odd-year-old and having people come in and change my bloody continence pads and that. I'd like to just slip away something easy. But I think if I was maybe somewhere, maybe a bit of warmer country, a wee bit more easier, a wee bit cheaper.
Oh, you were saying that last time.
Yeah, and maybe have something there that the kids could come and take if they wanted it. Yeah, I mean, what else do we want in life, really? There's not much. When you look back generations when people died, they were happy sitting in their wee house, well, a fire on, their kids has all got what they need. And then it was time for them to leave the unquiet, the rest of the deeds. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe we can waste a lot of, I mean, I've wasted a lot of years chasing dogs, yeah.
But do you think you did waste years? Do you think you could have been, even though you're successful, you have been very successful, do you think you could have been much more successful? I could have been
a lot successful, a lot quicker, put it that way. And I mean, if I try to tell everybody that's addicted to drugs and that, if you were to put as much effort into your life as you did chasing that shit from 1 for 2, it doesn't take you long to get somewhere. I think everybody gets so down in their luck and depressed that they think there's no way out. But you unfortunately, you do have to change everything. Hence the reason I live in the countryside. Would I have been able to do it if I lived in Midley, Kilmarnock, and seen people walking by my window? Probably not. I'll not pretend. I would probably struggle, even now, looking at my window and seeing addicts here, there and everywhere, knowing what they're going to be going and doing. All it would take with one bad day, and you think, to hell with this, I'm away for a...
I mean, I'd love to live in the countryside, but Scotland's a bit too cold for me because it doesn't get chilly up there, does it?
It's cold.
It's very cold up there.
Cold.
So I'd love that, but I'm one of these people that just live where I am and I just get on with it. You just have to get on with it, don't you? And I actually like where I do live. It's not. You get used to, and that's the danger. I think you get too used to it. Then the idea of moving away, it's like, oh no, I don't want to. I'm used to it now. Put down my roots here. So you don't want to grow old, but you want to go somewhere else. But well, you've got Lucky Cats, right? Now, Lucky Cats. If you said Lucky Cats, I want to know what's going to happen next year, not the wish you made before. You can't tell the wish you made.
Oh no, it's the way. But
let's be direct about this. Talking about Decahegi then, because that's the major force. You can't separate the two yet. What would be your dream would happen this year in that campaign?
I don't know. At the end of the day, Anne, I think, see, when I say when people think I've let them down, these are people I've never met. And you know what? They don't even, half of them don't even need the messages or whatever. I can feel it. I can feel them getting downhearted, because as much as you maybe come across to a lot of people with cyberbullying and all the rest, I can see why people looking in gets that. But I think, you know, if you just knew the extent of it, and I'm glad that people don't. I'm glad people don't like me for it, because they don't know that. That means they don't not know the full extent of it. Because knowing the full extent of it is a bit a head if I'm saying that right.
But what would you like to actually happen?
I think personally,
not what will happen, what you'd like to happen.
What I would like to happen is maybe seeing the people that have been accused of paying and all the rest of it coming down off a court says a set of stairs in a court with a victory. Well, there's no money involved in it. There's no payouts. There's no newspaper. There's no selling a story to a newspaper. Just a big.
Oh, hey, look, I'm going to pull you on this one, because people say this. I don't know what it's about the British. The British have a terrible ethic when it comes to money. It's like embarrassing. I mustn't want money. Look, right, if money's on the table, and I used to always say this, money's on the table, and they want to buy something off you, and you're willing to sell it. Like, here we are, put the money there, because you're telling them I'm someone that I'd been in the theatre. This used to shock people, because they want me to do freebies. Oh, will you do this? Will you do that? And I'd say, yeah, put money in my hand. And they'd look shocked and they'd say, well, you're getting paid, aren't you? I said, do you think my parents put me through all that and I went through all that, so I do freebies? No, they'd be embarrassed about taking money. If a paper said to you, here we are, we'll buy that story off you, you say, all right, I'll take the money. And if you don't want to give it to charity, that's what you do, because the buggers can afford it. They can. So people in the chat, never be ashamed about accepting money if you're offered it for something that someone wants.
I would say that I would never cash in on other people's trauma, whatever. I would never do that. Just because I'm not going on at anybody that's out there to buy coffees. No, I'm not going on at anybody. That's their choice. I just made a decision early doors that I would never make money off the back of other people's. Like, it's nothing to do with me. But if I ever cash in on it, it'll not be of what was happening with victims and stuff, because again, that would be me getting back my word. There'd be more of what was happening in the scenes where, like, myself and other people who was the things that you're asking me now. It's like the things we've documented, the times the police have been at the house, surrounding my house, and armed response, stuff like that. Yeah, that's the bit I'll cash in, because that's our own trauma, if you want to class it as that.
Quickly, if you want to, have you had any update from that? If you can talk about it, if you've had any update.
I've not had any update whatsoever on it, and apart from when the police come in the hall here and said that this would not be going away, because I never thought of it at the time, and it was the fact that they said that I demanded that they come plain clothed to disarm me. I never thought about it the following day. I was like, why would they want plain clothed officers?
Yeah.
Well, I can imagine people walking in my house, yeah, and they've not got a badge or something, yeah, just walking in. It's fight or flight mode, and I'm one of the folks. Somebody jumps out at me, I'm one of the people that goes. I'm not a person that jumps back. You either jump back or you go, don't you?
Yeah.
So I'm one that goes. Yeah. So the fact that whoever's done it's trying to put the police in danger, they're not taking it kindly.
Because it was a very, very stupid thing. Whoever did it, very, very stupid thing for them to have done. I mean, you don't play with armed response like that. But again, the force should have known.
There was an arrest yesterday morning by, without saying too much again, the father and son in Carlisle were arrested yesterday morning, and I believe bailed. I don't want to speak about it. It's nothing to do with me why they were arrested and charged, but both of them were bailed yesterday, early doors.
And you know this fella, before I forget to say this, because I think you find this interesting, know that felt it was used as an informant. The person who did things with children, and he was being paid by the police and informant, and also he abused twice, which you go on about. You've heard you mention it.
Northumbria Constabulary, yeah.
Well, hopefully this Monday I'll be interviewing someone, children's rights, and met him the other day. We had met in a cafe and spoke to him and his partner. I've known him for a while, and we'll be talking about it. And it'll be interesting. Just watch it, because I think hopefully it'll be this Monday. Just watch it, because he's like into children's rights, but I think he needs to know that the police aren't as honest as they sometimes make themselves out to be. But so I'd like you to watch that. Anyway, I'll look this.
Yeah, certainly. I've actually got a boy from Glasgow coming on, because I've been watching that Masters boys. You know, he's been brought in to try and run Humble off the internet. So I've been talking to a boy who's actually from his area, and he wants to come on and be more honest in things that Masters forgot to say, and basically break his story down to be the biggest loads of crap that's ever been on Ronan's podcast. So I wasn't going to bring the boy on, but you know, sometimes I just sit back and see how smart people get, and then I'll just bring them on and just let somebody obliterate their story. It's like a bit of the Joker. I will pull the card every now and again. So Masters, if you're sitting out there watching, stick in.
Oh God, there's some strong things. This tick isn't a fan of yours, is it?
Tick mentioned my girl's mother's name, who's never even been on a channel called Paddy Conroy's one night, and I've got a fair idea who Tick is. And yeah, I hope you're not working in any hospitals.
Oh wait, Karma, the Massions. Big up the Massions.
Oh no, Karma's in.
Big up the Cassians, man.
I've just got to say, Karma Corner. I'm good. I've never met the guy, and I just want to give him. I always give him as much respect as possibly can, because if it wasn't for him coming on and documenting things properly, and Karma Corner come in, actually, I think he was going to come in and humble. He was very much on the fence, but he started to see I just want to big up. I just want to thank Karma Corner. It's only recently I speak to him on Instagram, and for the first, 9 months, I never knew. I never even sent him an email or nothing. And his findings and his stuff, he's been spot on. It's been 100%.
Don't go bigging him up. Don't go bigging him up. Don't go bigging him up. He needs, keep him. Because he can go pretty well, can't he? He can go AWOL at times. So.
He's got a wee fancy for you, and I must admit. He has
oh, God. And, do you know what? He kept on saying to me, Anne, I've got a thing for you. And I had nothing to tell him, John, I'm not interested in your thing. Go and take it somewhere else. I don't want it. So
I think Danny Christie should be coming on with you, to be honest, because...
He's going to. Yeah, Danny Chris is going to come on, and I'm going to interview. Like about you, about his life, because I say, drama aside, we had to go into the deck and all that. There's no avoiding it.
He can't speak about that. That's the only thing. But again, you'll keep him right with it, because
I won't let him talk about that. And it's not about. It's about the life of the person and who they are as a rounded individual, and then which. People have never seen you before. They've seen you mention things, but they've never seen you as a person. And I just like to find out who a person is and, what makes them click. And I say the interesting thing, and I'll sum it up now, the interesting thing I found out, which I thought I was going to find out, was one, if I was to give any advice, I'd say just think back and see what has created you as the person you are now. That's not telling you to stop what you're doing, carry on what you're doing, but just gives an understanding of why you react the way you do, why you do it the way you do. And also, do look to what you don't like in life. That's it. Look at what you really need to put right and all that in life, or what you'd like to change in life. Because I think what is, you're looking out that much, you're not looking in. And I think looking in makes you a stronger person. And then when you do have a battle, because you know where you're coming from, you're totally understanding yourself. Anything you do, then it's got more of a chance of being successful. If that doesn't sound like a load of rubbish what I've just said, but that's the only
No,
way
no, I totally get it. People don't understand that words will never hurt us. Words will never hurt us. I think, I mean, I was red-headed, brought up in a mining village, yeah. So, look, words will never affect us. Words will never affect us. But
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. I mean, when I see kids get mentioned, Donna's son get mentioned a few comments yesterday, that gets my blood boiling, and I will go to sleep angry, and I'll wake up angry. But again, whoever's responsible, I'll just you know, at the end of the day, keep the kids out of it.
Yeah. Well, it's not that the people, when they start trying to dox and all
and they
that,
come in pretending that they're against DECA and that, you know, they're that stupid. It's like they'll make a profile calling it Welsh Road Beast, yeah, and come in and drop the comments. That's the first person I look at. You know, they're not bright enough. Their intelligence is very, very low. But just keep the kids out of it, or it will go a different road. That's all I keep telling them.
Well, they said, do you remember we weren't even talking to each other, but someone was using your children as an avi? And Steve got on, you got on Steve, and Steve got on Steve.
Yeah,
and
you
said,
removed
"Can
it,
you take
yeah.
it down?" And I removed it because I won't have that going on. And I think the vast majority of people in the chat will say that they wouldn't use someone's children. They wouldn't do it. Even though they can't stand them, they wouldn't do it because they know there's a line to be drawn. But anyway, what I'll do, I'll wind up. This has been fascinating, John. We'll have to have another discussion, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to get people on as well talking about. Here we are, Steve Wright's there, isn't it? We're going to have news of the world and style at some point, and you'll have to come on, Steve, and I.
Steve's a good man, Alan. I like Steve. He's been genuine, nothing to do with Masons. He's been honest. I've never caught him to be lying to me in anything.
Yeah.
Vice versa.
Celsius Groovy, I have been censoring comments because they're disgusting, and it's not funny when you say things very disgusting.
Again, if they're saying comments like that, it's saying more for them. As I say, if somebody's out there calling you a junkie every day, you'll probably find that they're struggling with an addiction themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's common knowledge.
Well, we see in others what we see in us, what we fail to see in ourselves. That's it. You see in others what you fail to see in yourselves. They say, don't they? But
I mean, we've got.
I mean, look,
Harana up there in Glasgow, right? She's one that would run about all the podcasters. I mean, any girl just off the comment section that can have any podcaster on a sofa testing out the springs says, you know, at the end of the day, there's loads of them. There's who is it? I get a name that was given to them the other day. They're Hewitt and Amanda G. I mean, I hope Amanda G's never behind any of this, because Amanda G commented, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, asking me if people get in touch with you asking about who I am or anything, just please, all right, that's fine. You'll never, you know what I mean? But again, if I find that they've been playing two sides and asking me to do something and then coming in with the other side, I'm no for them. I don't play by their rules.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean? I don't play by their rules. I've got a wee thing tonight to put out. I've been accused of getting in at somebody that's allegedly great, i.e. Sammy Lee.
Oh no, John, don't talk, because tell you now, whatever you want to do it. But
yeah,
I'm
but
just going to put this there. I don't like this. John, no, listen to me. Say this to me. I don't like this Sammy Lee issue that's going on. That's up to you. You want to do that. She's got the right to respond to you. But all that I'm saying is, I don't feel comfortable with what you're doing in this Sammy Lee. And she was nice to you the other day. She was nice to you. And I'll just leave it at that. So let's get
see how you feel about her tomorrow.
But let's just get off this one. You go this, you know, just let's get off that subject.
You know what I'm like?
It doesn't sit right with me here.
And then putting it one show messages.
Never mind. It doesn't sit right with me, you know, that way. I'm not saying that you're lying. I'm not saying anything about here. I'm just saying it doesn't sit right. It feels strange. I don't know. But that's your decision. That's your what you want to do. But anyway,
what about our ex-copper we've got going about there? What do you call her? Susan. What do you call her? Oh, well, let's just call her Barbara Hannah. What do you think of her? What do you think of Radio Barb's?
I don't know who she is. I know you've mentioned it, but I haven't got a clue. I've never had any dealings.
I'll fill you in later.
After my I just Miss. I've heard people mention names, but I don't know what the hell's going on. But anyway, tell Exposure. I will unblock him.
Okay.
I will unblock him. But
Okay.
he's got to, you know, how can I put it? He's got to flagellate himself for his transgressions. And he never does that again. Never again. You can call someone, but don't call someone for the way they were born. Like going on about children, I can't help the way he was born, and it's not nice to do that. It's like calling someone for being born with autism, being born with, Down syndrome or whatever. Oh, there's nothing. And I'm just pointing this out because I believe in telling people with this. You've got a fellow called Donna Rice. Not Donna as in your partner, Donna. But you've got and she keeps on using a term against Paddy Conroy.
There's a Donna, that's always in your chats. Yeah, she's been there for a long, long time.
No.
Donna even, no.
Let me say, Donna, if you can hear this, I'm not getting at you. I don't know you. I just think that you don't realise what you're saying. She uses the word Conroy, but replaces the C with an M.
Right. I don't know.
And puts a G in it. So if you imagine MONG.
All right, okay.
That is so insulting towards people with Down syndrome. So people be careful. I know that you think that's one of the things that triggers me. I don't like things like that. Don't, because it's made, you know what I mean, don't you? I won't make an issue of it. But yeah, I can notice saying that, and it just gets me to think, stop saying that. I don't care what Paddy's done. Don't start using hate speech terms like that. But you know what I'm like, that's my little thing. So anyway, yeah, Exposure will be unblocked, and I say he'll have to flagellate himself. He doesn't have to show his face, just his back being scourged, in repentance of his sins. So
everybody want to see my Scottish acro needs to make more noise about it. There's not enough noise getting made. It's like you want me to spend time. Mate, you need to make more noise.
Yeah, but you'll have to. I know you were going to send it to me.
We need to make more noise, and we need to put more hate. We need to have more suspicion there. There's not enough suspicion yet, guys. I need more. More public interest.
Who was it you wanted to show theirs, and then you'd send yours to
me? Fighting Irish. I was going to send mine to you as a Fighting Irish. Agreed to it, but again, he's a no-show.
Yeah. I
didn't want to enroll you in it. I was just happy if he'd agreed to send it. And I was going to send you not just my Scottish acro. I've actually got the data. I've got every single thing. Remember how they'd missed 5 years? They'd made it, done it since I was 23-year-old, not 18. I went right back. In fact, I was actually quite impressed with just how much data they actually have on somebody. But one thing I've not got on, and I'll send you, is no cautions, emails, reprimandings against women and children.
Yeah.
None.
But that was it. Do you know who else vanished, right? Surprise, surprise. Do you remember how a certain person who was pretending to be me? Totally obsessed with me, strange person. I asked him again. I forget whose chat I was in. Oh, it was Motorsports chat.
Was it not the girls? Was it not the girls or something?
No, it was Motorsports.
All right, okay.
And I said to him, he started on at me again, calling me dangerous to children and all this business. So I said, here we are. I said, show your acro, I'll get mine. You show yours. And suddenly, what did I say he does? He vanishes. I thought, there we are. And PP, I'm going to pull you as well. Come on.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's not a channel out there called UK Dawn. It's been saying some pretty disgusting things. Now there's an address being given out for it belonging to somebody in Maryhill, and at the end of the day, again they've went in low with the children, no having children remarking all that. So again, nothing.
Here we are. Yeah, PP is on, right? Why have I blocked him?
The most handsome man on YouTube.
I tell you what, he's the most two-faced, hypocritical flip-flopper on YouTube. PP, I'm sorry, right? You can't come on being nice to me, then bigging up on another channel, I won't mention which channel, that's coming out with the most vile, disgusting things, horrible things about my being the way I was born. That's why you've been blocked. I'd rather have you be against me than be nice to me, than supporting something like that. Now, I don't care if you want to follow them, but don't go joining in this rubbish, then suddenly coming to me and being all nice. I can't say he's a flip-flopper. And also, Jockney Sparrow showed his acro. You didn't show yours, did you?
Jockney Sparrow nose is too narrow. Only thing about Jockney Sparrow failed to mention was your Scottish acro comes through by a secure link. Jockney Sparrow never mentioned that. The English acro doesn't come through on a secure link, but the Scottish one does on.
Well, he showed it, didn't he? I mean, I'm not a fan of Jockney.
Yeah. I'm just saying. But
Yeah.
again, it's like, how do I get it? At the end of the day, if like people going to make documentaries and stuff like that, and I could not possibly, because imagine I have to show the things, before anybody in a professional state's going to touch it. They would never go. The man that shouted Decker out turned out to have blah 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 blah. I could never be as crazy or that. Well, don't get me wrong, there is crazy folk out there. If you want to take Paddy Conroy sitting in a shed pointing at this person, that person, when he's refusing to cover his own questions. So I suppose on that, but on the other sense of things, the data's good.
Yeah.
I love data.
You know what's saying now? Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. Just reading some of these, then we'll get off. Let's see.
And I'll be back in 2 seconds, right?
Hey, well, what I'll do.
I can hear you. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Hey, Carl McConnell, you behave yourself. What's a moon shadow, Tom? I'm being followed by a moon shadow. What's that?
But
do you know what a moon shadow is, John?
moon shadow.
Yeah, sounds interesting.
I know what moonshine is, but I don't know what a moon shadow is.
I know, it's interesting. Maybe they'll tell me. Oh, well, wait a minute. I got the right one there. It's Cat Stevens.
It's Cat Stevens, yeah. Cat Stevens, a message from my father. There's a great Cat Stevens song. It was played at my cousin's funeral. A message to the sun. Cat Stevens.
Anyway, so how would you like to close it down now? I'll give you the final say here of what you want to say. Unabridged.
I would just like to thank Anne, obviously, because I don't think a lot of people come into my comments saying, what you got Anne on for, vice versa. It works both ways. And I think to get to this stage where I'm actually sitting the second time actually on your panel now, and I think it just shows that, and again, why, we've had fallouts, but again, it's because you thought it was somebody else. And I'm happy to meet anybody that thinks different. I mean, Stu Armstrong there, I met him for the first time a few months ago there in Newcastle, who everybody presumed would have been friends for years. The guy's a genuine guy. He's
Paul Venice.
Paul Venice as well. I met Paul Venice.
Who did you say before? I thought you said Paul Venice.
Stu Armstrong.
Oh, Stu Armstrong.
Yeah, from the Real Fight Club. I met a lot of people, and I was treated really well. In fact, I was actually kind of blown away how much respect I was given. So, but there's been no money, there's been no nothing on it. At the end of the day, there's no movie interest in that. Oh, you're in the new breed of criminals, and because of this, you're doing this. There's none of that. I've not got a price on. If I did have a price,
well, you know why? You know why I wasn't in New Breed of Criminal, don't you? Do you know
I heard you're in the second one, no.
If he can get backers to afford to employ me, because this is it. I said to, I mean, he was trying to wrangle me, you know. It was took me to lunch, roses, all, you know, this business. And as I said before, if it ain't got that coin, if it ain't got that green crinkly stuff, I ain't doing.
No, but you end up working for somebody like Sean Atwood or something, man. Come on.
Go on. I mean, he just couldn't afford. Poor Steve couldn't afford me. It would have been taking half the budget of his film to have me in it. So if this one's a success, then he can get the finances to get me to afford to pay me to be in the second one. But anyway, let's see what Karma's got to say before we go. Cat Stevens wrote this about finding hope in any situation. Be present and joyful. See life as it is right now, and don't compare it to others' lives. That's not Karma Corner. Someone's taken it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Karma Corner. It's not Karma Corner saying that. Listen, but anyway,
the smart kid Stacey saying Donald McIntyre pissed himself laughing at the trailer. I'm quite sure if Donald McIntyre had been at status of Rise of the Foot Soldiers and stuff like that, you need to look into things a wee bit better.
Donald McIntyre.
Yes, you said Donald McIntyre was. At the end of the day, I don't think people realise who's making these movies and that the success they've had. Wow, actually mind blowing. Very intelligent, clever people. Yeah, who don't. I don't think they got enough praising for the stuff that they've done.
Oh, it's not an easy thing though, making films. I know I've seen
the technology they're using nowadays. Oh, and that's that.
Oh
yeah.
Oh, it's amazing what they can. But again, it's sad in a way because you know when you see all these special effects now, they have the special effects which sort of it robs from the story. I mean, some of them don't. The original Avatar that had a good story to go with the effects, but it's when they're just the effects and there's no story.
All right. Sorry, Stacey. I thought you were talking in regards to. I didn't know. I'm not keeping up that chat. It's mad.
Anyway, John, I'll leave it there. I'll wind her up now, and I'll get back to my cat, which I've decided to call because he's moved in. He's moved in. He's not going anywhere, so he's been called Koshka. That's his name, Koshka. So, which is Russian for those who don't know for cat. Koshka.
And see your friend over. Sorry for interrupting just before you go. See your friend over Newcastle. Remember the friend with that told you about the fishing guy at Drumore? Remember?
No. Who was that?
Jax.
Oh, Jax. Oh God.
Well, tell her. I've ended up with the other night, last weekend. I was on a live. I ended up with harbour masters all around the country coming in. I was in fishing forums before. I'm like, you don't want to get involved with this stuff, guys.
I can't say anything about Jax, but I love Jax.
No, I'm not saying anything bad about him.
No, I'm not. I know you're not. But what I'm saying is, this is what I'm saying. I love Jax a bit, but Jax hasn't been on for a long time. And I haven't heard from her for a long time. And I know why I haven't heard from her for a long time. It's nothing.
What about Walter Mitty? Can anybody tell me what happened to him? He was talking to us all the time. He said he last spoke to us saying he was going in for an operation or something on a Monday. He was going into hospital. This was months ago. You remember Walter Mitty, the wee blue happy face? profile.
What it was with Walter Missy and me and him, right, was the same thing what I've just said to PP. I can't stand people who are being nice to you 1 minute, then going somewhere else and actually sitting and getting involved in really horrible things, nasty, low blows and all this, when I've done nothing to them. And also, he was a mod for
Sean
Sean
Atwood.
Atwood when I was having difficulty with Showdown. So I said, you can get lost. And he went, absolutely. He went, if it was a man, it might have been a woman.
Well, I had a lot of run-ins with him. Then he told me that he'd been bedbound for, was it 3 years or something? He'd been
No, he was ill. He said he was ill.
But he was going to the hospital on the Monday, and I've never heard from him ever since. So can anybody fill me in if he's survived, or if he's? I just want to know if he's still alive, because I think about often.
I never knew him all that well. He used to just come into my chat, and he was all right with me, and that's what made it worse. He was all right with me. Then I'd see him in when Johnny Sparrow was coming out with all the hate. I'd see him in there, and I thought, wait a minute, this isn't right. It's like we were talking before about Jamie Boyle. Now, I like Jamie Boyle. Now, when you start talking about Jamie Boyle, I come out of it. I won't get involved in the chat or anything, because I think, no, I'm not going to get involved in that. So that's what I do. And it just seems strange when people, say, oh, I respect you, I like you. And then they're listening to that, or they're getting involved in it. And it's like, oh, no.
I just Jamie and Brian and that would just sit down, agree to disagree, or whatever, and just move on.
Yeah, I hope that can happen. But anyway,
but my loyal, until that, my loyalty sat with Brian only because he never backed down when the pressure was on him.
Oh, that's up to you. I mean, that's you want to do that, and I don't know the full story.
We don't know. No.
I don't know the full story, and there's lots of things I don't know. And it's like what I said to you the other day. When you do some of your videos, I've said to you, didn't I? Either I'm going to get. If I understand this, I'm either going to get an education, or I'm going to end up being sectioned one or the other, because I don't know the full story of it. And that shows you that I'm not being paid by you, because if I was being paid by you,
you would know the full story. Yeah, totally.
Here we are, let's see. And this is turning into an epic, and I have a bus to catch. What's a bus, John? What's one of them?
A bus?
What's that?
A bus, you go in a bus, take a bus. Bus fare, buses, train, bus.
You mean what the plebeians get on?
Yeah.
Oh my God, no, she hasn't got a chauffeur. You haven't got a chauffeur, Stacey. Oh my God. What hasn't got
Look at can I get in Tony, the Cyclops Beast of York, for 2 seconds?
Is that him?
Tony, why don't you prove you're so innocent? You instead of scamming everything going and getting into hospitals where you're not allowed to go and actually visit the children. The fact that you were allowed to get in to an autistic home, with kids with autism, you need you need taken off of YouTube altogether. Get your acro out, because you're a scumbag. Thank you. Sorry, Anne.
Oh no. You go for it.
He's a scumbag. You shouldn't be allowing your autistic children that. You shouldn't. You're not allowing your kids never like autistic kids home. You're a wee bully. How's them apples? And get Rhonda's money paid back as well, as scumbag you are. And I don't like Rhonda that much, but I do believe her story, and I do believe that he scammed a few quid off her, playing in people's heartstrings. Make me feel sorry for you.
Yeah, well, there's a video you can make, isn't it? There's a video you can make. But anyway, John, so to everyone in the chat, thank you for joining in. And on Monday, I've got a very good interview. Very good, because it involves what an MP, I don't want to give it away. It involves what an MP has been pulled for with this person who's fighting for children's rights, and it's absolutely horrifying what happened to, horrifying what she did. So watch that. And to everyone in the chat, thank you for joining in, and it's great to see another side of John, and we'll have to, I say, do something again like this, John.
Yeah, definitely.
In the future. So you take care, John, and
thank you, Anne. I'm going to get in the chat for a second. Thanks for having us on.
Okay, take care now.
Okay.
Bye bye.